Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into something fundamental for entrepreneurs, especially somewhere like India, with such a buzzing startup scene.
Right.
It's this core question: do you bootstrap, or do you go out and chase external funding?
Yeah, that's the big one. And it's tricky because there really isn't a single right answer, is there?
No, not at all. It seems so dependent on, well, the specifics of the business, the founders, just its unique DNA.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to unpack that. We want to explore the nuances of each path.
Look at the strengths, the challenges.
Yeah, the pros and cons, and maybe bring in some specific examples we found in the research.
Okay.
The goal is, by the end, you listening will hopefully have a clearer framework for understanding this fork in the road.
Help you think about your own ventures, maybe? Or just understand the landscape better?
Precisely. Encourage you to think critically as we go.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So first things first, bootstrapping. What does that actually, mean in practice?
Well, the way the research frames it, it's basically growing organically.
Right.
So using personal savings, maybe revenue that starts coming in early, or possibly small loans you get yourself. The key is no outside investors.
So founders keep all the ownership, complete control.
That's the idea. Full ownership, full control. And it often leads to what you might call a more deliberate pace of growth, maybe more sustainable in some ways.
Okay, so what are the big advantages then? That control must be huge.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably number one. Total control means zero investor interference. Every decision, strategy, pivots, product stays with the founders.
And 100% of the equity stays with them too.
Exactly. Plus, because they have to survive without big checks, these companies often get profitable much earlier.
Ah, interesting. Builds financial muscle from day one.
Right. It forces this really lean, frugal culture. Efficiency isn't just nice to have. It's, essential for survival and innovation.
That sense of ownership, the control, it does sound really appealing. Almost like, the purest form of building a business.
It can be.
But there've got to be downsides, significant hurdles, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. The main challenges really stem from having limited resources.
Makes sense.
Which often translates directly into slower growth.
Yeah.
You just don't have that pool of capital to, say, blitz the market.
Right.
There's also, usually, pretty intense cash flow pressure, especially early on. You have to manage every penny meticulously.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And for the founders, the personal risk, the operational risk, it can be way higher.
And scaling up fast, especially if you're in a really competitive market, that must be tough without cash.
Incredibly difficult sometimes. Those capital constraints are real.
So, okay, less money means slower, maybe more deliberate, definitely more controlled. But are there Indian examples that really made this work? Massively?
Oh, definitely. Zoho and Zerodha are sort of the poster children for this in India.
Ah, okay. Heard of them, of course.
Yeah, what we've gathered really highlights how they built billion-dollar businesses without taking any external venture capital. Not a rupee. Zoho's founder, for instance, is pretty famous for just being laser-focused on profitability right from the start.
Yeah.
Turned down investment offers, apparently.
And Zerodha.
Similar story. Built that huge brokerage business, focusing on low costs, great execution, all funded internally.
They really proved the model then.
They absolutely do. They epitomize that bootstrap success story in India.
It's genuinely impressive, especially today when everyone seems focused on the next funding round. So let's flip the coin. If bootstrapping is self-reliance, what about the funded path? What defines that approach?
So a funded startup is pretty much the opposite in that sense. It's one that deliberately goes out and raises capital from external sources.
Like angel investors, VCs?
Exactly. Angel investors, venture capitalists, maybe private equity later on. The whole idea is using that cash injection to scale much, much faster.
Okay.
Scale operations, hire top talent because you can afford competitive salaries, and grab market share quickly.
Right, and this is where it gets really tempting for a lot of founders, doesn't it? That prospect of external funding. What are those undeniable advantages?
Well, the primary one is that speed, rapid growth. Access to big pools of capital lets you potentially outspend competitors on marketing, grab the best engineers, maybe even acquire smaller players.
Consolidate the market?
Exactly. And it's not just the money. Investors often bring their networks.
Ah, the network effect.
Right. It's about who they know. They can open doors to customers, partners, maybe even help with later funding rounds. It can accelerate growth way beyond just what the capital itself does.
And adds credibility too, I suppose, having known VCs backing you.
Significant credibility, yeah.
Okay, that sounds fantastic if your goal is world domination, moving super fast. But there's always a but, isn't there? What's the trade-off?
There definitely is. And the challenges can be pretty profound. The biggest one, losing a chunk of control.
Right. The investors get a say.
They do. By putting in capital, they get influence. They might push for things the founder doesn't want, like selling the company too early or changing the business model to fit their fund's timeline.
To get their return.
Exactly. Then there's equity dilution. Every time you raise money by selling shares, your own ownership percentage goes down.
So you own less and less of your own company.
Potentially, yes. Which reduces your control over time and obviously your financial upside if things go well.
And the pressure.
Immense pressure. External funding usually comes with sky-high growth expectations. That can lead to founder burnout or can force really risky moves just to hit those investor targets, sometimes unsustainable ones.
And we have examples of big funded players in India too, right?
Oh yeah. OYO, Flipkart, Swiggy, they're classic examples.
Household names.
Absolutely. They raised billions, grew into massive leaders in their spaces. But the analysis definitely shows this came with huge scrutiny, constant pressure from investors, and significant dilution for the founders over time.
Okay, so we've kind of laid out the two main paths. Bootstrapping, funded. It feels like, as you said, neither is inherently better, it's about fit.
That's exactly the core message coming through. It's not about better or worse, it's about alignment. You need to ask yourself some key questions.
Like what should you be thinking about?
Well, first off, what's your personal risk appetite? Bootstrapping takes a lot of personal sacrifice, patience maybe.
Yeah.
Funding offers potentially higher rewards, but comes with those external pressures and risks we talked about.
Okay, risk tolerance. What else?
Your business model is critical. Some models are just naturally more capital light. Think software as a service, SaaS.
Right, low startup costs relative.
Exactly. Those can often thrive being bootstrapped. But if you need, say, lots of physical inventory or a complex logistics network or heavy R&D.
Like hardware or deep tech?
Precisely. You might genuinely need significant external funding just to get off the ground and reach a meaningful scale.
That makes sense. It also brings up the question of what's the end goal? What are you actually building for?
That's a huge one. Are you building what people sometimes call a lifestyle business, focused on sustainable profit, quality of life, or are you genuinely chasing that billion-dollar unicorn status?
Very different ambitions.
Totally different. Bootstrap companies often prioritize that sustainable profitability, healthy margins, self-sufficiency. Funded ones, they're often gunning for blitzscaling.
Blitzscaling, explain that a bit.
It's basically prioritizing speed above almost everything else, even efficiency. Spending heavily, sometimes losing money hand over fist, just to grab massive market share and dominate before anyone else can react.
Wow, sounds intense.
It is. Requires a very different mindset, different operations, and, external factors matter too. What's the market doing? What are your own long-term financial goals? All that plays into the decision.
It also sounds like maybe the lines aren't always so rigid. Can companies sort of mix and match or split paths?
You're absolutely right. That's becoming much more common. The sources we looked at talk about this hybrid route. Sometimes it's called smart bootstrapping. The idea is you bootstrap first, maybe get profitable, definitely prove your model works and has traction. Then you seek funding.
So you negotiate from a position of strength.
Exactly. You get better terms, less dilution. You're bringing investors a proven, de-risked business.
That sounds smart.
It can be. Others might raise just enough, maybe a seed round, to reach what's called product market fit.
Where the product really clicks with the market.
Right. That sweet spot where you've got clear demand and a path to scale. And then they might shift focus back to revenue and self-sufficiency, maybe avoiding huge later rounds.
So the lines are definitely blurring. More flexible strategies are emerging.
Very much so. It's not as black and white as it perhaps used to be.
Okay, so pulling this all together for you, our listener, what's the big takeaway?
Well, like we said at the start, there's really no single better way. Bootstrapping versus funding.
It's not about which is superior. It's about aligning the funding strategy with your startup's purpose, its DNA, and your own goals as a founder.
Exactly. Success, at the end of the day, seems to depend more on having a clear vision, executing really well, and staying true to why you started the company in the first place.
Yeah.
Regardless of how it's funded.
Right.
And just understanding these different paths, their implications.
Yeah.
It just leads to more informed choices.
It forces you to think critically.
Yeah. About your business model, your tolerance for risk, your long-term vision. That thinking is absolutely key.
So here's maybe the final thought for you to consider building on all this. Before you write that pitch deck, or maybe before you tap into your savings, ask yourself this question. Are you building to raise, or are you building to last?
Ooh, that's a good one. A powerful question to really mull over.
Yeah.
We hope you take these insights, think about them, apply them to your own situation, whether you're an entrepreneur or just interested in how this world works.